The October 30th Fort Thomas Design Review Board meeting at 6 o'clock on the nose. Let's start with roll call, please.
Jeffrey Signage.
Here.
Mark Thurno. Pat Haggerty.
Here.
Barry Petrarca.
Here.
Benjamin Novosel.
Here. Thank you. We have quorum. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from September 28th. I was out of town, so I'm going to look for one of you fine gentlemen to make a motion or propose any edits.
That's all good. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion that's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any additional discussion? Any opposed? All right, and it's approved. Process-wise, we will read in the order of the agenda the items that are up for discussion. If you're representing one of the property owners, you are the property owner, we ask that you come to the podium, give us your name, your address. We'll go through our process of the initial discussion, and then if there's further conversation from anybody in the audience, we ask the same thing, that at that time you come forward and stand at the podium and give us your name and address, and then we'll go from there. So first item on the agenda for new business is for 2500 Fort Thomas Avenue for the Quarter Group, exterior improvements, landscape, signage, retaining wall, and trolley stop.
That's me.
Welcome.
I am Chris Marion, landscape architect with Human Nature. A couple of the owners are here tonight, Jeff and Tony. Thank you for coming. And yeah, we'd like to share an update on our site strategy with you, and we have a design intent presentation that we'd like to share, and hopefully get a thumbs up to go into more detailed construction as finances and phasing allow. So, Green Line, Sam was holding up a book. It's an important part of Fort Thomas's history, North Kentucky's history really, and contributed to us having 3 business districts. And so we thought it was a really fun thing to celebrate here in the Central Business District, and kind of picking up on that as part of our theme. Of course, a lot of you have seen the progress. There's some existing conditions, photographs. The main access to the front door is already constructed. The 2 upper patios, pergolas, an outdoor terrace with a fireplace. That's part of the addition. All of that's already in place. So we're really working on the site around that.
Excuse me, could we get a microphone? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Is that better?
No, thank you
Okay.
so much.
Sorry about that. So again, existing conditions images just for your reference and reminder. We have 2 existing trees in the front that were planted as part of the original streetscape that we're working to save. They frame the entrance to the building very well. So just, the 2 words that resonated as we worked on a vision statement and goals for this were gathering place. So right in the heart of the district, so many good things happening. We want to be a complementary sort of destination for gathering. So people coming here with their families, before and after games, weekends, evenings. And so that idea of a gathering place really is central to what we're doing with the site. And so we went through a series of studies, 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional, looking at different gathering space designs, and kind of synthesized the preferred ideas from that into a concept plan, which is what you have here. And so I'll spend the most amount of time on the front yard. So what we've done is we've created an upper garden that's held by a seat wall, and that seat wall provides good soil for plantings up against the patio and the front porch. It also then provides informal seating for the front yard, which will be a turf material, and then there's a linear garden along the sidewalk that holds the existing trees and will provide kind of year-round interest. It's low plantings, you'll see in the 3D images. So it's pretty simple front yard strategy with those 3 zones. The central yard zone is the gathering place. It's meant to be flexible, so movable furniture, so different days of the week, different seasons of the year, things move around, furniture, yard games, things like that, to allow for this to be an inviting place that says, come sit down and have a conversation or have a drink. The upper garden is pretty low in front of the front porch area. It gets a little taller around the outdoor patio that has the fireplace. There's 3 flowering trees there that kind of give a little bit more privacy to that patio. And then that provides a landscape that kind of wraps around the new addition. The backyard is very simple. We've added a shade tree in the southwest corner there to provide some shade from the afternoon sun. And then there's low plantings along the back that try to relate well to what was done in the parking lot. So the palette and the scale and everything is very similar, so that you feel a sense of cohesion and welcoming from the rear as well. Because this really has 2 front doors, one from the sidewalk and one from the parking lot. So that's a quick overview of the plan, and then we have some renderings. So this one's straight on with the front door, and kind of building upon the existing stairs. We kind of use the cadence of the stairs to decide where planting beds begin and end, where access to the turf begins and ends, and the wall. You get a good sense of the scale of the wall here, so it will vary in height from 18 to 24 inches, providing that seating, informal seating resource that will be good. And it's a unilock charcoal gray product. So the simple arc in plan that you saw, we wanted something simple and contemporary, and we chose the charcoal gray to match the roof, which is the gray slate. So it really kind of grounds the landscape in relation to the building, kind of that timeless dialogue between the roof and the wall. And it also allows the color of the plants to really pop with that. And there's a couple of potted trees, one to either side, kind of again framing the entrance and reinforcing the symmetry of the facade and providing a little bit of privacy to the outdoor diners at the top. Those will probably be southern magnolias, is what we're thinking about right now. Here's a view from the side, and so you can get a sense of again how that front garden will be low, ground cover, bulbs, maybe some small shrubbery, but trying to give 4-season interest and really protect those trees and give their roots room to grow and be healthy. From this other view, you'll be able to see a nice little nugget that we came up with, which was, could we do a small rendition of a green line stop here to kind of pay homage to the green line in some way. And so we researched the structures that we found around town that were associated with the green line, and we tried to scale it to sort of fit that scale, but we pulled the palette of materials from the building. So the brick would match the building, the roof would match the building, and the posts would match the pergola. So again, there's a sense of cohesion of the overall composition. The placement of it is on axis with the fireplace, so you can walk through the green line stop, and it sort of introduces you to the garden in a nice way. There's wooden benches that are built in between the column pillars. So again, it kind of speaks to that idea that there was a stop here at one point, and so if you wanted to sit in the stop and have a conversation, you could do that. We're talking about maybe having some interpretive signage out there. They're still working on research about that and trying to get that to complement what's going to be on the inside of the restaurant. So don't have any specifics on that yet, but that's on the radar screen. And then this is a view of the back. And so you can see the shade tree and the lawn there, the low plantings and layers for seasonal interest. And you'll see there's a bench there at the back door, so if anyone's waiting. We didn't bring the low wall around to the back. It seemed unnecessary. And so we have a wonderful collection of benches in our streetscape, and we just thought we would pick one of those and have that out there as a nice compliment. So nothing crazy in the back, just nice and simple and welcoming. Here's a collage of the plant materials that we're talking about. So hydrangea and sugar maple, the southern mag that I mentioned, and then the three flowering trees sort of wrapping the upper terrace would be the saucer magnolia, boxwood hedges for evergreen. So again, simple, formal, multi-season interest, fits into the character of the rest of the CBD and complements a lot of what they did at One Highland, because this is our neighbor. And so moving from there, and I can go through this all, and there's only 2 more slides, and then we'll come back and I can reverse and call up any images that you want. We're talking about signage, and again, our goal here tonight is to just get a thumbs up on concept, and then we can follow up with more information. We are looking at the possibility of a main entry sign here that would kind of connect the 2 pergolas and have the logo on it. Again, that would kind of be green to match the front door and the logo that you saw earlier. It would be wood to match the pergola, so it's really an extension of the pergola across the front there. And then in the back, just a couple of very modest signs at eye height, with one with the name and one with the hours of operation to the other side of the door. So pretty modest strategy on the back. And I think that's it for the overview. I went through it pretty quickly, so again, if you have particular images that you want me to go back to, I'm happy to do that.
That's good. Yeah, thank you. Comprehensive imagery and presentation. I have a couple of quick questions, if that's all right. Can you go back to your site plan? Sorry, like your very first drawing.
That's okay.
But
There we go.
just, can you confirm the placement of the green line stop? Like there, it kind of looks like it straddles the sidewalk. In the renderings, it looks like it's
Yeah.
pushed back
It
into
would
the
be
lawn.
flush with the edge of the sidewalk, so it
Back.
would not overlap.
The back edge?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. On the planting seat walls, will those be, I assume, faced on both sides if it's?
So, let me go to the next image. So the 2 walls that come toward the street, those would be faced on both sides.
Okay.
Yeah, the other ones will be retaining, so
Mhm.
they'll have soil behind them for plantings.
Okay.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons we picked the Unilock system, is they offer that, and it's they offer the cap as well, so it's an integrated system.
And is that charcoal a pretty monolithic color?
It's very monolithic.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And there's some samples at the site, if anybody wants to go see those. Again, our goal is to match the roof, the slate roof.
So I just had one question. Earlier on, you had a seating option in the back, which would be the southwest corner. That's going away.
There's still a bench there.
But it's not a
Seat wall.
restaurant seating,
Like outdoor dining on the
outdoor
roof?
dining in the back. They
Yeah.
had one way back when, that had one back in the back area,
Yeah,
which was a concern for
That's
the
not
people that lived behind because of potential people being rowdy
okay.
at late at night, but that's gone.
I guess that decision was made before I was brought on, because that's never been part of my program. So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool.
That little rendering there too. It doesn't have the signage over the main front door, but it does have like two little diamond pieces flanking that walkway.
Right, we were exploring that too, and we probably wouldn't do both.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, one of the nice things about having this turf and having the green line stop is you don't really need a lot of signage. So what's that right balance? It's not meant to be a billboard. And whatever we do should be tastefully integrated with the wall or the architecture, so.
I apologize if some of the specifics have already been talked about, but in terms of the yard and the trolley stop, and is that an extension of the restaurant? Is it something, like, how do you sort of control who's sitting there? And some of those just more day-to-day operations kind of things?
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, we'll learn a lot over time about that with the operations. But, you know, again, I think the idea is Fort Thomas is a very open and social community, and the idea is that, you know, we want people to see someone they know there and come sit down and talk, and so it's intended to be very open. You know, over time, there may be reasons to have some more rules, but I think we're going into it with the idea of it being open and inviting, and that people will behave themselves.
Chris, do you have landscape lighting figured in here?
So we are considering the idea that this wall system comes with the possibility of an LED strip in the cap that would wash the face of the wall with really soft light. You know, that is something that we've talked about, but we haven't said we're absolutely doing that or not. Good question, thank you.
What about the,
Other than that, though, there's string lights from the pergola that you can already see. We're not really talking about adding a lot of light out there.
what about in the trolley stop, with any lighting?
I assume there would be a light in the ceiling of that, yes.
Anybody on the board have any additional questions for Chris before we open it up for public commentary or feedback? Anybody out there would like to say something? If you could come up to the podium and give us your name and address, please.
Rick Riley, Residences at One Highland. Kevin's done a good job of trying to make sure that the lighting on our project didn't impact the neighborhood in a negative way. We've been messing around with the lights in the parking lot for a couple months now, and he's come up with a solution to put shields on the lights so they don't reflect right into the neighborhood, because they're at the same height as the parking lot. So my question is, the kind of lighting we're gonna be adding, again, won't be any globe lighting that would go into the residence next door or affect the adjacent neighborhood,
That's correct.
just landscape lighting, so great. And then secondly, is all the trash and containers inside the building, so they'll be moved out when they need to go to the dumpster? I mean, they're not outside the building, they're all enclosed inside.
I don't know the answer to that question. That might be better if the owner hasn't been determined yet. Okay.
We've been talking about it for months, so hopefully that happens too, because it's a tight site, there's no place really to put those outside the building. And then lastly, the seat wall that is in your site plan, so that wraps around the sidewalk that connects Fort Thomas Avenue with the parking lot, and it
Yeah.
holds up the dirt, so that elevation change between the building and the sidewalk works.
That's correct.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And did you anticipate any bike racks anywhere for people that might want to come and?
We have not allocated one yet, but I think we'd be open to that for sure.
You know, you should ask Christine, you know, how it works at the coffee shop.
Mhm.
It might help you
Yeah,
decide.
yeah, it's a good idea.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Looks great, Chris. Thank
See
you.
you, Rick.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to say anything on this application?
Joan Ferris, 66 Burning Lane. The renderings look good. I appreciate the commentary along with it. I can't let it go without saying, the Green Line, it gives me chills at what a perfect name for a restaurant in our city is. It is, for any of us who have lived here for a long time, I wasn't there when the Green Line was built. The Green Line is part of who we are, and I don't know how much market research went into that, but from the very first names that I've heard tossed around over the last couple of years, how they arrived at, in my opinion only, is the perfect name. I'm appreciative for whose ever brainstorm it was, or, you know, brainchild or idea, or who did the market research. For one person, am thrilled with it, and I thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion from someone.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal as seen.
I'll second.
If I may, just interject, I don't know how specific you want to get with your motion and the details of the motion that might prevent any, the applicant from coming back. Are there elements such as the signage that you're okay with? I don't know if we want to touch on those elements as part of our motion, just so there's not any confusion as to what he needs to come back for. Do we want to specifically say seawall, landscaping, lighting, trolley stop, signage, etc.? Or are there elements that, you do not feel comfortable with, and if not, maybe there should be some further discussion. Be my own comment.
Is that sign your proposal, or do we know, are you gonna change that at some point?
That is the proposal.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's a concept, so we don't have working drawings of it yet, and paint chips and all that, but you see the design intent. And so, I think we fully expect to follow up with more content to staff.
I would suggest, if I may, that if it's comparable to what it is, that staff might be able to approve it without coming back. If it's pretty much, hey, this is what it is, maybe it obviously has some green hues and, certain coloration. If it's drastically different, we bring it back before the board, but if there's minimal or minor changes, I don't want to waste the board's time with something that's not.
I think given how complete the presentation is and the package that's been submitted, if it stays consistent with that, I would personally feel comfortable approving as submitted. And then at your discretion, if there's a tiny modification to the proposed signage due to a fabrication issue or something, that you have that filter to go, no go.
Thank you.
That's just me.
Well, I think that's the way the motion was set. And I just wanted to clarify for everyone. So if the motion is as applied, do you feel comfortable with that? Obviously, we have a motion in a second.
Will you submit a lighting plan, or will lighting be minimal in the landscaping?
It would be minimal. I'm glad you brought that up, because there is a possibility that we would do that cap lighting, which would cast a really light on the front of the wall. And it is likely that we would have a light inside the ceiling of the Green Line stop.
All right, so it is minimal.
Yeah, so if it's any more than that, then, again, Kevin might decide that needs to be discussed here. But, yeah, at a minimum, we would consider those two.
Okay.
So why don't you amend your motion maybe to just make note of the two proposed lighting strategies for low-level landscape lighting at the cap wall, at the wall cap, and at the trolley stop.
Yeah, that's a good detail.
And then if there's a deviation from that.
You good? You want me to give all that?
We're just so moved for just recommendation. I'd be your easiest.
Most importantly, did you get that? Is everybody clear on what the amended motion is? Approve as submitted, lighting modifications beyond the cap wall, and a light inside the trolley stop. And then we need to come back before. Okay, so we have a motion amended. We'll second it. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion's approved. Thank y'all.
Great, thank you.
When are you gonna be open, do you think? Springtime? Yeah. Love it. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to hang out for the next one if you want to. Otherwise, you guys are free to roll. Okay, the second item on the agenda for this evening is a continuation of an application for 10 Alexander Circle. Applicant is Cincinnati Pergola. Owners are Darek and Abbey Sanford.
I'm Ben with Cincinnati Pergola, one of the owners.
I'm Abbey Sanford, resident at 10 Alexander Circle.
Darek Sanford, resident of Alexander Circle. Thanks for being here. You guys also have a pretty comprehensive package that you submitted here. I think that was in response to maybe the first time in front of this board. Can you maybe just talk through what you're proposing to do real quick?
So we're proposing to put a automated pergola on the rear of this home. The pergola is kind of at the base of the house, it's exposed past the home in any case. It's powder coated aluminum. It's meant to last, from a manufacturer's standpoint, 15 plus years. They back that with a full warranty. It is electric in the automation portion of it where it can be open or closed. When it's closed, it's watertight. When it's open, you get that full natural light falling through it. We are intending to put low lighting, can lighting for mood underneath it. It's pretty well lit. I think we submitted a full rendering with automation in it, and then we also submitted a full angle from the street that you could possibly see it from. It's pretty minimal.
Can you talk a little bit about the black color choice as it's shown in the renderings?
We did choose that because we have black aluminum railing that was previously approved back there, so that was why we chose that.
Okay.
And our windows are black on the house. I just want to add, we don't have any covered space in the front or the back of the homes up there. It gets really hot on the cement stones that were chosen to put back there. We took a temp gun to those stones in June before the peak of the summer. We have little kids, and it's read 106 on the ground out there, not even in the peak heat of the summer. So that was why we wanted to get something covered out there. We wanted something permanent instead of putting like 2 large umbrellas.
Yeah, I think the pergola was what design was pursued instead of a more permanent structure with windows or columns so that you could still see through the property back into the woods. And it would kind of be minimalistic. There's already pergolas up in the property in various locations, and actually touched on, we used black aluminum just to tie in with the already existing railing system.
Yep, thank you. Anybody up here have any additional questions or comments on the application?
I think just a common question, again, sorry, this has already been asked, but this house was constructed as new, correct? It's not a
Correct.
traditional, or I'm sorry, historical structure in itself. It's in a historic district, but it's a new construction.
That is correct, yes. There were, you should have a copy of it as of today, I think, when the property transfer occurred several years ago to allow for the development to occur. There was an exhibit that was attached to that contract, which are design guidelines for Alexander Circle. A lot of these elements are taken from the Secretary of the Interior's standards, but it is not as exhaustive as that, as this is 25 pages and that document is close to 300. So this is what my understanding governs Alexander Circle. including reference to an infill new construction on the former site of a house that no longer existed, so. Okay, anybody in the audience like to come forward? Yeah, I'm sorry, if there are no other questions or comments from up here.
Well, I'm Peggy Maggio, 37 South Shaw Lane. In no way do I mean to obstruct what you want to do in your home. It sounds beautiful. But I am a little unclear, and Jeff, I know you have a lot of experience in historic preservation, but Kevin, what are the exact guidelines that apply to this application?
There is an exhibit that was attached to the deed that the board has had before them.
But what are the specific guidelines that apply to this situation? Or if we don't know, it's okay, but.
Well, no, it's here, it's in the package that they've had before them. It's a lengthy.
So I guess one of the questions I have is.
They've had a chance and opportunity to review.
Do you guys, I'm just curious, I don't know what the guidelines are, but I heard that perhaps there's some guidelines about you cannot build something that can be seen from the street, or maybe other guidelines.
Should we have a motion for discussion, or is it just a matter of answering?
I think it's okay.
Well, no,
Yeah, you're fine.
believe me, I'm not trying to question you guys or anything like that. I guess my concern is that we have an orderly application of, first of all, identifying what applies, and then how it applies to a particular application. I know that Matt and Kevin, I think you two, are in the process of getting a historic consultant to help you all with exactly that, but to prepare a packet ahead of time, identifying the specific guidelines that are applicable, and then coming to the meetings actually and helping with an analysis in these types of situations where someone's trying to improve their property in a historic place. My understanding is it doesn't, like you were saying, I think, Jeff, these guidelines, which were entered into with an agreement with the federal government, apply whether it's infill or whether it's original homes back there. So I just want to be sure as we go forward that we know exactly what guidelines apply.
Yep.
And that those are applied in a factual manner.
Sure, I can read from this document from my understanding, if you'd like, just in terms of what I believe applies in this
Perfect, thank you.
instance. If you would like a copy of it, I have it digitally as well. You're welcome to have this if you want to follow along. On page 23, I think the closest thing that aligns is item number 3, preservation principle number 3. New porches shall be compatible with the historic character of the residence. I'll go to B, which says porches and decks may be added to rear facades so long as they are not readily visible from the right of way. I think that, in my opinion, it goes on. I mean, there are other things that talk about some materiality, like pressure-treated lumber is not allowed. The screened-in porches are permitted. They must be compatible with period detailing, including roof slope and overhang. That doesn't apply in this instance. To me, I think there's no great definition, in my opinion, on readily visible from the right of way. I think they've done a good job, in my opinion, of pulling and we had similar conversations way back before the project started in terms of the location of, size of, and placement of the garages and rear porches that were added at the time. Depending upon where you walk, as the road kind of does this back there, sometimes can see it, sometimes you can't.
So I guess my concern is, since we don't have the historic consultant here this month, it would be whether or not this is visible from the front, according to what you just said, and then the materials. You know, I don't know what's a historic material, compatible and what's not. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but those are my two concerns. But I really appreciate you identifying the standards that were applicable on, so that we can talk about it from there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the proposed black color, the reason why I asked the question when the applicants are up is to confirm that it would tie in with the rest of the color strategy on the house. I did look a little bit at the Cincinnati Pergola website today. It does look like there might, I don't know if it's like stick-built aftermarket stuff and not a kit, you know, like but it appears that are some elements that, if they're chosen correctly, could potentially be added that would make it a little bit more compatible. But then I also think we have an infill house that really look closely, doesn't really look like anything else that's back there in terms of its ornamentation and detail. It is decidedly different. So.
And it was supposed to be that way. I mean, part of the regulations, part of what was done when that house was built is that it's not supposed to be precise to the period. You don't want the mistake that this is a, home from the turn of the century.
Right.
And so that was very specific in its language.
It was not meant to mimic or fool you into thinking that it was a house that was original. It's meant to be distinct, but in similar context of massing and volume and size. I mean, if it was a 4-story house, obviously that's different. If it's a 1-story house, that's also different.
Yeah.
If it's whatever, 1,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet instead, then it's noticeably different. So it's similar, and contextual in that regard, but it's not literally the same. And it's not a Disney set, a stage set trying to fool everybody into thinking that it was original.
Similarly to that is the additions that were put on the back, the garages put on the back. They weren't meant to blend in and be this, and per the guidelines, and you're not supposed to create an addition that is gonna fool folks. You want it to be distinct, separate, that it jumps out to people, and I think that those additions are similar in that manner per the guidelines.
If it helps in terms of your process, in terms of this view from the street, I'm happy to sponsor a tree as well that would help sort of break that up for anybody that's in that neighborhood and kind of helps move that project forward for them and keeps you guys from being the viewable from their backyard kind of people.
I'll just add, you brought up the structure website and some of the additional modifications you can make to the posts, beams, the cornice at the top. And we chose posts to match the existing homes, the posts that they use in the back of their house, and the same thing with the cornice work. So that was intentional to try and make it fit in as best we could.
Yeah, I did, for what it's worth, go back and read through the Secretary of the Interior standards in my spare time. On page 26, where it talks about new exterior additions and related new construction. I think this is just an important point I'd like to reiterate, some of which I think has already been brought up. It does talk about, I'll just read it verbatim. New addition must preserve the building's historic character, form, significant materials and features. Again, I would say with an asterisk, since we have an infill new development in this particular case. Must be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and design of the historic building while differentiated from the historic building. Should also be designed and constructed so that the essential form and integrity of the historic building would remain if the addition were to be removed in the future. There is no formal or prescription for designing a compatible new addition or related new construction on a site, nor is there generally only one possible design approach that will meet the standards. To me, that's a pretty ambiguous statement.
Jeff, may I get to that very quickly? Kevin, I may have misunderstood what you just said, so I just want to be sure we're clear. So what I'm seeing in here and what I've heard is that any type of addition or any kind of improvement is compatible. What I thought I heard you saying was that it should be distinct. Did I misunderstand?
Should be distinct.
You were saying when they put the garages on, they were made to look separate?
Yes, they were.
So that's not my understanding. My understanding is they need to
And
be
Jeff,
compatible.
just read the next paragraph.
What page are you on, Jeff?
This is a totally different document. This is the
Oh,
federal
okay.
government's 250-page version.
That's, again, I think I know these young people, when I get along with their project, that this is page close.
Honestly,
Yes.
if you guys would maybe turf this 1 month, you could have a historic consultant here who can probably give you a lot of guidance. I don't know the answer here at all, but I do know that the little bit that I've researched over the last 2 years, that anything that happens to these homes needs to be compatible. And maybe distinct, but certainly not, that's the standard, they be distinct, but, and actually it's the opposite of that, that they be compatible. So it sounds like you guys have looked at this design and made that judgment. So I'm not saying that particularly, but just going forward, maybe we have that kind of guidance.
Yeah, I don't think we've made a decision yet. We're in the midst of a conversation. I will read the next paragraph. This is on page 26 of the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines. New additions and related new construction that meet the standards can be any architectural style, traditional, contemporary, or a simplified version of the historic building. However, there must be a balance between differentiation and compatibility to maintain the historic character and the identity of the building being enlarged. New additions and related new construction that are either identical to the historic building or in extreme contrast to it are not compatible. Placing an addition on the rear or any other secondary elevation helps to ensure that it will be subordinate to the historic building.
I'll also just add one more thing. I also read the documents in my free time. And most of the documentation follows preservation of historical buildings. This is not a historical building. It's a new building in a historical area. So there's only a few guidelines from the federal document as well as what was presented from the development site that really pertain to the house from what I can read.
That is correct, but I think to be fair, we want to take it in context with the entirety of the neighborhood. So. Anybody else in the audience like to say anything? Any additional questions or comments? Yeah, can you come forward, please?
Laura Landwehr, 47 Woodland Place. Just a little small advertencia, as we say in Spanish. I've walked through the neighborhood, okay, the neighborhood in question, just to see what I could see from the sidewalk. Just, all those garages have exposed patios with the sun beating down on them. These folks want to put up a pergola, and I understand they're making a real effort to make it fit in. But what's going to happen when everybody else in the actual historic building decides that they want something too? Are you prepared to deal with that?
We take it on a case-by-case application and review it on the merits of that particular application, that particular site, that particular building.
Yeah, I'm just saying, this will be coming your way.
Any additional questions or comments from anybody on the board?
So basically, when you're looking at this from the street, you're going to see a post and roughly a, 2x8
You got it.
structure.
That's exactly what it is.
That's it,
That's it.
in black.
Yes. Henry Ford style.
If this was totally on the back of the house that you could not see it at all from the street, it wouldn't be an issue.
Correct.
No. And you will put a tree in that yard to,
You pick it, I'll stick it. I happen to own Cincinnati landscaping as well, so I'm happy to get whatever size tree you want us to put in. It's a really easy bargain. If you want something that's full length to the ground, we can do that. And if you want something that's carved or whatever, it's very good.
I think there was one of the renderings that was on YouTube, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, it looked like it had some texture on the columns. Is it textured?
It
or
is
it
not.
smooth?
So the renderings that we have are very glossy in nature. If I was gonna give you something to compare it to, the window frames of what you have here is very similar to that. From a chaos standpoint, it's meant to blend in with exactly what we've selected to blend in with, handrails, siding, that kind of thing, anything trim-wise. It's far away from anything cheap. This is a very substantial product. It's an industrial application that was originally meant for restaurants in creating seating areas. And it's been one of those things, because of how nice and long-lasting it is, it's hit the residential piece and really run, particularly in the last 10 years.
Thank you.
There's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the application as submitted.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion, it's been seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you. What kind of tree you guys want?
That's Alan Park.
We can send you the tree commission.
Thank you, guys. Okay, next item on the agenda is adjournment. I'll take a motion for that, if there's nothing else, at 6:46 p.m.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Someone